video is about minor scales. We've already done a video on major scales, and you should have gone through that and fully understand how to put together a major scale. Now what we're going to do is take that information and relate it to minor scales. Now minor scales, again, in the Western tradition, the minor scale operates in a similar way to the major scale, in that it has 8 notes, it uses every line in space, and it starts and ends on exactly the same note. Those characteristics are true of the minor scale just as they are of the major scale. What of course is different, and I'm sure you've anticipated this, what is going to be different is the placing of the half steps. Where the half steps were placed between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8 in the major scale, they're going to occur in a different place in the minor scale. So, where are they? Where do they occur? Because once you know that, you pretty much know minor scales. Well, the answer is going to be revealed in just a moment. However, I do need to say that for various reasons that we will get into in a moment, there are 3 types of minor scale. There is what is called the natural minor scale, and then there's the harmonic or melodic versions of the minor scale. We will be looking at all 3, but we will start with the natural version of the minor scale. You will remember, I hope, that when I did my presentation on major scales, the video there started with C major. And I started with C major because it falls very nicely onto the keyboard using white notes of the piano. It just falls naturally into place, so that the white notes and the black notes all line up to create a major scale. The place that that happens for minor scales is on A. If I were to write up following the criteria that I have outlined, starting on A, using all the lines and spaces between A and A, making sure I start and end on exactly the same note, then I have the basic outline for a scale. And in this particular case, if we were to go through and see where the whole steps are and where the half steps are, which we could do easily, starting on A and ending on A, we could say we have a whole step, a half step, a whole step, a whole step, a half step, a whole step, and a whole step. And if we counted that up, we would realize that the half steps occur between 2 and 3, B and C, and the half steps occur between E and F, which is 5 and 6. Counting up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the half steps occur in the natural minor. We have half steps between 2 and 3 and 5 and 6. Now, with that much information, I assume that you could go and write out any natural minor scale because it's exactly the same principle as it was for major. If you have been writing out major scales and you feel comfortable with that, all you have to do is follow these 3 parts and make sure that your half steps are located in a slightly different place from the major. So you still have 8 notes, you still use every line in space, and you start and end on the same note. If you do that, but make sure that you have a half step between 2 and 3 and 5 and 6, you will have created a natural minor scale. So let's do that very quickly here. I'm not going to spend a great deal of time in it. I'm just going to go ahead and do it quickly so you can follow through. I'm assuming that you get the concept. I'm going to do a scale starting on the note C. And I'm going to write out my notes exactly as I need them. 8 notes ascending through each line and space, starting and ending on the same note. I've got everything in place. Just so that I'm absolutely clear on what I'm doing, I'm going to mark my half steps, make sure that both 2 and 3 and 5 and 6 are marked. That way I can easily and quickly see where they need to be. I'm going to go through now, starting on C, and I'm going to move up. You're going to track with me on this if you need to. Here's the C. We're going to track from C to C, but we're going to locate our half steps between 2 and 3 and 5 and 6. C to D is a whole step. No problems there. It's what I need. D to E is a whole step, and I need a half step. So we adjust the note we go up to, remember. Always adjust the note you're going to. We end up on E flat. E flat to F now is a whole step that I need. I've created that by creating a half step here. I've also created the whole step I need here. F to G is a whole step, no problem there. G to A, that is a whole step and I need a half step. So I'm going to adjust the note I go to. Always adjust up. This G works in the scale. I don't want to change it, so I'm going to change the note I'm going to. It becomes A flat. that A flat now creates an unusual interval here, A flat to B. It's certainly not a whole step. It's more than a whole step, and I need to change that. I need it to be a whole step. So I make this a flat. That gives me a whole step. And then this B flat now to C is a whole step. And again, exactly the same as with the major scale. If you've done everything right, the last interval will be correct. You shouldn't have to change the top note because you begin and end on exactly the same note. So the last note should be exactly the same. It should fall into place. And indeed, I need a whole step, and it's created a whole step. This would be C natural minor scale. It's C natural minor scale because it uses 8 notes. It uses every line in space. It starts and ends on the same note, and it has half steps between 2 and 3 and 5 and 6. We're all good on that. Now, what you do need to know is that this is not, as I said earlier, the only form of the minor scale. So the question becomes, how do we create the harmonic or the melodic versions of the minor scale? Now, let's be clear on one part of this. Always start with the natural scale. Write out the natural scale and then make a change to go to the harmonic, or from the natural make a change to go to the melodic. Don't try to go from natural to harmonic to melodic, or from natural to melodic to harmonic. That just gets messy. Start with the natural and then make a change to go to the harmonic, or make a change to go to the melodic. And I'm going to tell you what the changes are that you need to make. So we start with the natural. Here is the natural minor scale. We know it's a natural minor scale. 8 notes, every line in space, starting and ending on the same note, half steps between 2 and 3 and 5 and 6. We're good on that. Everything's in place. It's a natural minor scale. To make this a harmonic minor scale, you raise the 7th scale degree. I used a term there. I said 7th scale degree. The term scale degree simply is a way of referring to each of the members of the scale. We call these scale degrees. So I could say the 2nd scale degree, or you could say the 5th scale degree, or the 7th scale degree, or whatever it might be. So in the case of this particular situation, from the natural minor to the harmonic minor, you raise the 7th scale degree. Now, please notice I said raise. Some people will interpret this to mean sharpen it, and indeed, you may be sharpening it, but you may not always be sharpening the 7th scale degree. You are raising the 7th scale degree. I'll demonstrate what I mean by this in more detail in just a moment, but just underline for yourself the fact that this is raising the 7th scale degree. So, here I am. I've got my A natural minor scale. I want to make it harmonic. I raise 7th scale degree. Now, what I've actually done is create a half step here. And I've created a very odd sounding interval here from F to G sharp. If you look at that interval here, F to G sharp, if you just wrote those 2 notes down on paper, you would identify that interval through going through our process of identifying intervals. You would say, well, I've written an augmented second. That's exactly what it is. It's an augmented second. It's a little bit unusual. It gives the harmonic minor scale a very unusual, somewhat Eastern, Middle Eastern sounding sound world at that top end. You have it's kind of a strange, almost sounds to our ears, our uninformed ears, when it comes to listening to that type of music, kind of sounds like snake charming music or something like that, Arabic style music. It's a very acceptable interval in that style of music, but to our ears it sounds strange and out of place. But nonetheless, this is the harmonic minor scale. It therefore is a scale that is the natural minor scale with a raised 7th scale degree. When you raise the 7th scale degree, you'll create a half step between 7 and 8, and you'll create an augmented second, a very unusual interval in our sound world, an augmented second between the 6th and 7th scale degrees. Okay? Now, let's just do that same thing for a moment with the C natural minor scale. We're going to take it from natural to harmonic. So we're going to raise the 7th scale degree. How do we do that? Notice, again, this is where the emphasis has to be on raising and not sharpening. We don't just put a sharp in front of that note, we raise it. To raise a note may mean taking a flat and making it natural, taking B flat and moving it up a half step. To raise the note, we raise the 7th scale degree a half step. To do that, we do it, in this case, by putting a natural in. Now, when we put a natural in, we create a half step here, and again, we create an augmented second between A flat and B natural. That same interval, A flat to B natural, creates an augmented second, a strange sounding interval in the context of this particular scale. But that is the harmonic version of the minor scale from the natural. Now, let's go on to the other. Let's go back to the natural scale. I'm just going to turn these two scales right back to where they were. This is now, I'll take away the half step because we don't need that. This is exactly what we had before. I've not changed anything from what we had with the natural minor scale. Here's the natural minor scale. Everything exactly as we expect it to be. Now, we're back to the natural minor scale. This time we're going to go to the melodic minor scale. What do we do to go from natural to melodic? In this case, you raise the 6th and 7th scale degrees. Now, whenever we're raising by a half step, right? When I say raise the 7th scale degree, raise it by a half step. Raise the 6th and 7th scale degrees by a half step. To raise something means to put an accidental in front of it that will take it up a half step, all right? So if we're going to raise the 6th and 7th scale degrees, here we are, A natural minor. Find the 6th scale degree, it's right here, I'm going to raise it. Find the 7th scale degree, raise it. What has that done to my whole and half steps? Well, in fact, it has eliminated this half step, and it has created a half step here. So we now have whole steps here and a half step at the very end. So we have a scale which is a minor scale, but it has a raised 6th and 7th scale degree. The same thing could occur here. If I'm going to raise the 6th and 7th degrees on this C natural minor scale, what's going to happen is these two scales degrees here are going to go from flat to natural, remember raising them, and I'm going to create a half step here and whole steps everywhere else. So that would be my melodic minor scale from the natural minor scale. Now, there is one tricky little spot with the harmonic minor scale and the melodic minor scale. With the harmonic minor scale, it ends up being a scale that is exactly the same going up and coming down. When you write it ascending up, you write it exactly the way that I said. You start with the natural minor scale, you write that out, you raise the 7th scale degree. If you want to write it going down, you just write the notes in reverse order. With the melodic minor scale, it, however, gets returned to the natural on its way down. So you go up like this, but when you come down, you return those notes back to their natural state and carry on down. Up here, I go up, I raise the 6th and 7th scale degrees to get to the melodic minor scale. Going down, I turn them back into their natural minor state. So on the way up, you raise the 6th and 7th. On the way down, you return the scale to its natural state. So if I were to write out a melodic minor scale ascending and descending, I would write the notes ascending of a natural minor scale. I would know where my half steps are in the natural minor scale, and I might even mark them. But then I would make my adjustment. So I want to now make this a melodic minor scale, so I'm going to raise the 6th and 7th scale degree. But on the way down, I'm going to turn them back into whatever they were in the natural. And then I end up with this scale going down. It's the natural minor scale. this scale going up is the melodic minor scale. And the whole thing together, going up and down, where you go up melodic and down natural, that is called the melodic minor scale. When you play the melodic minor scale, you play it going up, changing the 6th and 7th scale degrees, raising them, and then turning them back into their natural state on the way down. It's comes as a kind of a unit on its own. It changes on the way up, and it changes back on the way down. And that's the way the scale is played and presented. Now, there are various reasons why we do this, and I will perhaps do about a 2-minute video just talking about why we have changes in the natural minor and harmonic minor, why we make the changes to harmonic or melodic minor, or I may just go over it in class at some point so that you get to hear that. It's not really relevant to right here. What you need to understand is that there are 3 forms of the minor scale, that the natural minor scale has a certain order of whole and half steps, and we learn the half steps for that, and that if we want to go from natural to harmonic, we raise the 7th scale degree. If we want to go from natural to melodic, we raise the 6th and 7th scale degree, and we turn the scale back to natural on the way down. If you understand that much and you're able to write out these scales, you should practice writing them out to make sure you're getting them right. Bring them into class, we'll look at them together, and then if you feel like you've got a grip on that, then you're in good shape as far as both major and minor scales are concerned, where we are concerned in this particular way that we're studying music theory. So, thank you very much.